What you're looking at is the border between Bangladesh and India. You might have already noticed this weirdly shaped thing right here in the middle. If I were to fill in the borders, it shows that this area is a part of Bangladesh that is separated from the mainland and is completely surrounded by India. This is what's called an enclave, which is part of a country, or in some cases an entire country, entirely surrounded by territory of another country. However, this piece of Bangladesh, called
Dahogram Angorpota,
is also an exclave, which is a piece of a country separated from its mainland. The border between these two countries used to be way more complicated, but they took care of that a while back. Only this enclave remains. When it comes to enclaves, many of them are also exclaves, but not all of them are. An example of an exclave bordering more than one country would be the Nakhchivan Autonomous Republic, an exclave of Azerbaijan that is separated from its mainland. This exclave borders Armenia, Iran, and a tiny bit of Turkey. As of 2023, only 3 sovereign states in the world have their entire territory enclaved within another country. The smallest of these is Vatican City, which is the smallest country in the world in terms of both area and population. It has a population of just 453 people and an area of less than half a square kilometer. Vatican City is completely surrounded by not just Italy, but even the city of Rome. Another one of the 3 enclaved nations is also enclaved within Italy, San Marino. San Marino is the 5th smallest country in the world at just 61 square kilometers. The largest enclaved nation is Lesotho, which is the reason why there's that big hole in the east of South Africa. A nearby neighboring nation of Eswatini is almost closely enclaved within South Africa, but it has a second border with Mozambique. Let's take a look at a few more examples of some enclaves and exclaves. Switzerland has 2 pieces of territory from 2 of its neighbors inside of its borders. In its southern border, the country has an enclave of Italy, called Campione d'Italia. The largest casino in Europe, the Casino di Campione, is located inside the enclave. Moving to the north of the country, an enclave of Germany, Busingen am Hochrhein, can be found. Something interesting about both of these enclaves, although the legal tender is the euro, the de facto currency in both of these enclaves is the Swiss franc. Speaking of Germany, Germany also has enclaves within the borders of another one of its neighbors, Belgium. In fact, there are 5 enclaves, which are all separated from the mainland by the Fenbahn, a Belgian railroad which is no longer in use. In fact, at some points, only 10 meters, or about 32.8 feet of Belgian territory separates them from the mainland. Let's move north to Belgium's border with the Netherlands, where this nightmare of a border exists. The many Belgian exclaves make up the Flemish municipality of Baarle-Hertog, with the surrounding area plus the Dutch exclaves inside of these Belgian enclaves making up the Dutch municipality of Baarle-Nassau. Yes, you heard me right. Dutch enclaves within Belgian enclaves within the mainland Netherlands. These types of enclaves are called either second-order enclaves or counter-enclaves, and these aren't the only examples. The only other example that I know of is in the Middle East with the borders of the United Arab Emirates and Oman. This piece of the United Arab Emirates, called Nawa, is surrounded entirely by an Omani exclave called Madha, which itself is enclaved within the rest of the United Arab Emirates. There used to be more examples of second-order enclaves with the original Bangladesh-India border, including a third-order enclave or counter enclave, but these enclaves and exclaves were dissolved in 2015 with the exception of the one shown at the beginning of this video. There are plenty more enclaves in the world, but I do not have time to talk about all of them in this video. Let's now talk about some exclaves that would, by definition, also fit the terms semi-enclave or semi-exclave. Now, I know you're probably wondering, what's that? Well, the two are very similar to one another. A semi-enclave refers to an exclave that borders only one country and has access to the sea. A well-known example of a semi-enclave would be the US state of Alaska. Not only is it the largest state by area, but it also only borders Canada, making it a semi-enclave of the United States. A semi-exclave is very similar to a semi-enclave, but the only difference between the two is that a semi-exclave borders more than one country. A notable example of a semi-exclave is the Kaliningrad Oblast. It is the westernmost federal subject of Russia and is cut off from the mainland. The existence of this exclave gives Russia a border with Poland and Lithuania, thus making the Kaliningrad Oblast a semi-exclave. Another example of a semi-exclave would be the French Overseas Department of French Guiana, bordered by Suriname and Brazil. The last example of an exclave I will talk about is a Pene-Exclave. This is a type of exclave that is only accessible via another country. Surprisingly, the United States has plenty of them. The most well-known of these is Point Roberts, which is a Pene-Exclave of Washington. After the War of 1812, the British and Americans agreed that the western border of what is now Canada and the United States would be the 49th parallel. However, Point Roberts just barely dipped below the 49th parallel, effectively cutting it off from the rest of the United States. What makes this Pene-Exclave interesting is that the only school in the exclave, Point Roberts Primary School, only goes up to grade 3. Therefore, students in grades 4 and up have to cross the Canadian border to attend school in Blaine, Washington. Moving east, the US state of Vermont has 2 tiny Pene-Exclaves, both of which are divided islands that are only land accessed by the Canadian province of Quebec. Vermont also has another exclave here, but it can be accessed via the United States, therefore making this one a semi-enclave. Another interesting example of a Pene-Exclave is Jungholz, a village in Austria that is only accessed via a German road. Now, you're probably saying, Geo, that's an enclave. It's entirely surrounded by Germany. Actually, it's not quite an enclave. There is an extremely tiny opening, only 4.7 meters long at its narrowest, at the top of Zorgschroffen that connects Jungholz to the mainland. Funnily enough, the state that Jungholz is in, Tyrol, also has an exclave. Aside from that, that is pretty much all you need to know when it comes to enclaves and exclaves. You've reached the end of this video. If you enjoyed it and found it helpful, be sure to hit the like button, and if you're into content like this, you might as well subscribe. This is Geo today, heading out to go eat geography for breakfast.